This is Captain Jim Kenny with Just a Thought. Have you heard of the term leveling? It's a liberal term that's been used in our public education sector for more than a decade. Essentially, it means that no one should be allowed to excel or to fail, that competition is bad for our self-esteem, and we must protect our children's self-esteem at all costs. This manifests itself in ways like not keeping score at children's sporting events or creating team grades rather than grading on individual merit. It means pacing the classroom to the pace of the slowest child, never mind the boredom and damage it does to the others. This fear of exceptionalism has entered the public square. Liberals are doing their best to level the distribution of incomes regardless of merit. Essentially, they are pursuing equality of outcomes rather than equality of opportunity. Our Creator has gifted each of us differently and expects each of us to make exceptional use of the gifts He has given to us.
To download a copy of your transcript, go to www.inspireandignite.com.
This is Captain Jim Kenny with Just a Thought. Have you ever heard of Ed Freeman? Probably not, unless you're one of the men he rescued from certain annihilation in Vietnam on November the 14th, 1965. On that date, outnumbered 8-1 and pinned down under withering automatic weapons fire so fierce that the U.S. commander ordered the medevac helos to withdraw, many wounded soldiers were facing certain death until Ed Freeman refused that order and set down his unarmed Huey helo in the middle of the chaos and rescued 3 wounded soldiers. Then returned 13 more times. All told, 30 U.S. soldiers were rescued from certain death that day because of the heroism of Ed Freeman. He was awarded the Medal of Honor for his value. Ed died this past week at 80, and it's fitting that we honor him this Independence Day weekend. Ed's story needs to be told and his life celebrated because it's hard to find any real men in the news these days.
To download a copy of your transcript, go to www.inspireandignite.com.
This is Captain Jim Kenny with Just a Thought. Are you aware of the travesty of representative democracy that occurred on Friday, June the 26th in the House of Representatives? During debate on the floor of the House over the Markey-Waxman tax bill, another of those 1,000-page bills that must be passed immediately or the sky will fall, and one which not a single congressman had bothered to read, you, the voters, besieged Capitol Hill switchboard with so many calls in opposition to the bill that you actually overwhelmed the capacity of the system. You shut the system down with the volume of your calls demanding defeat of this bill. And they passed it anyway, impervious to the wishes of you, the people. And what they know but won't admit is the bill does nothing for the environment and will conservatively cost every household in America an additional $1,300 to heat and cool their homes in just the first year. After this brazen display of contempt for the voters, rather than the House of Representatives, we should call it the Imperial House of our noble class.
To download a copy of your transcript, go to www.inspireandignite.com.
This is Captain Jim Kenny with Just a Thought. Do you remember the Disney movie Pinocchio? Pinocchio was a little wooden puppet who wanted to be a real boy. In the story, he sets out to find a way to achieve his dream, and in the process falls into a very evil crowd of thugs and ne'er-do-wells. In their company, he learns to lie and do all manner of awful things. The problem was that every time he lied, his nose grew longer. Pinocchio was rescued by his conscience, Jiminy Cricket, who taught him the right way to behave and helped him find his true value as a real human. We have our own Pinocchio on the Potomac. As a young man, desperately seeking his place in society, he fell into a gang of thugs and ne'er-do-wells in Chicago. We must pray his Jiminy Cricket rescues him and teaches him the true value of free markets and of America's noble values. Either that, or we'll be required to watch his nose grow longer with each new story he tells.
To download a copy of your transcript, go to www.inspireandignite.com.
This is Captain Jim Kenny with Just a Thought. Have you noticed how different many of our states are? Take California and New York. Both states are very liberal and have consistently voted for higher taxes and bigger government. They've accepted federal bailout money, and both are following the GM and Chrysler management model into bankruptcy. California is preparing to issue IOUs instead of checks this month to cover its debts. On the other hand, Alaska and Texas refused federal bailout money. Texas has no state income tax, and Alaska pays its citizens an annual tax rebate. Both states have resisted the call for bigger government and for more taxes, and both are doing just fine, thank you. Then there's Minnesota. Maybe it's the long, cold winters, but they actually elected a pumped-up former professional wrestler as their governor. And just as the rest of the nation stopped joking about that, they sent a professional clown to represent them in the U.S. Senate. In case of secession, forward my mail to Texas.
To download a copy of your transcript, go to www.inspireandignite.com.
This is Captain Jim Kenny with just a thought. Is it ever okay to be angry? Often when we are angry, we use language we wouldn't normally use. We make accusations we later have to apologize for. We do things we wouldn't ordinarily do. During the Bush administration, those opposed to his policies got angry, and in their blind rage, lost sight of truth and reality. They often said and did the most outrageous things driven by their anger. Today we have a different administration in D.C., and those of us opposed to much of what this crowd is trying to do must not become so angry that we lose our ability to be thoughtful and to counter the ultra-liberal policies being proposed. We must not let anger blind us to the truth. All we say and all we do in opposition to this new direction the liberals want to take us must be steeped in wisdom, not angry rhetoric and name-calling. The Bible does say, be angry and sin not.
To download a copy or transcript, go to www.inspireandignite.com.
This is Captain Jim Kenny with just a thought. Have you ever heard these famous words, my dad can whip your dad? It's wonderful to believe that your father can handle anything. It's even more wonderful to know who's ultimately in charge and to know with absolute certainty that he can handle anything that comes up. Jesus, at his trial by the Roman government, responded to Pilate's threats by saying this, you would have no authority over me at all unless it had been given to you from above. Essentially, he looked the world system in the eye and said, my dad can whip your dad. He knew with absolute certainty that his father was in control, even when the circumstances surrounding him seemed desperate. In these uncertain times, when D.C. seems to have gone insane, and we wonder what new socialist idea they will propose next, remember, as children of the King, we can confidently tell the enemy, in any situation, my dad can whip your dad.
To download a copy or transcript, go to www.inspireandignite.com.
This is Captain Jim Kenny with just a thought. Will honesty ever be restored to Washington? Which of the following statements heard from D.C. in the past month are actually true? We do not want to run the auto industry. We do not want to run the financial institutions. We have no intention of moving to socialized, rationed medicine. We simply want to reform health care. Our Supreme Court nominee is well-founded in constitutional law and brings no personal bias to the bench. No one making under $250,000 a year will pay a single penny more in taxes. Global warming is the greatest single threat to mankind today. Even though the deficit projections are the largest in history, they are necessary to solve our current economic problems. If you said none are true, you get an A+. If you think about half are true, you're getting too much of your news from the mainstream media. If you think most are true, you probably still believe in the tooth fairy.
To download a copy or transcript, go to www.inspireandignite.com.
This is Captain Jim Kenny with just a thought. Should you be skeptical about the liberals' plans to reform health care? In a word, yes. First, under the guise of, quote, universal health care, the plans being proposed only cover approximately one-third of those without coverage today, and at a cost of nearly $65,000 for each new person covered. Secondly, you will never hear the true cost of the program, but if Medicaid is our best example of government-run health care, watch out. Medicaid has most states' budgets near or already in crisis. Third, the plan will reduce the number of new doctors and nurses while increasing the existing workload by 20%. More work, fewer providers, equals rationed health care. Under this plan, older folks will have a duty to die. The promise of quality health care for everyone is utopian. Reality is quite a different story. Can we do better? Yes. But is turning health care over to the government better?
To download a copy or transcript, go to www.inspireandignite.com.